Imagine a fleet of 2,000 ships, their sails catching the wind, vanishing into the endless horizon of the Atlantic Ocean, carrying a king who abandoned his golden throne to chase a mystery older than time itself. These were not the ships of Christopher Columbus, nor the vessels of any European explorer. They belonged to Abu Bakr II, an African ruler from the Mali Empire, who, over 2 centuries before 1500, launched an expedition so daring it might have rewritten the history of the Americas. But those ships, and the king himself, disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the sea's silent secrets. What if they reached these shores? What if their story was buried, not by waves, but by the hands of those who shaped the history we were taught? The Americas, we are told, were discovered in 1492, but what if that is only a fragment of a far grander, far older tale? One that whispers of lost civilizations, hidden voyages, and truths we have been trained to ignore? The question lingers like a shadow in the night. Who really set foot on these lands first? And why have their stories been erased from our books? Welcome to Mystery History for Sleep, where I, Mr. H, invite you to drift into the past, to uncover the whispers that time could not silence. Tonight, we embark on a journey through the ancient Americas, a land not of empty wilderness, but of forgotten cities, advanced societies, and mysteries that challenge everything we thought we knew. If you find yourself captivated by these untold stories, consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that bell to join our community of dreamers and seekers. Now, let us return to that question, the one that tugs at the edges of your mind. Who came to the Americas before Columbus? And why do their footprints seem to vanish from the pages of history? For centuries, we have been taught that the story of the Americas began with a single voyage, a so-called discovery that marked the New World's entrance onto the global stage. Christopher Columbus, we learned, stumbled upon these shores by mistake, seeking a western route to Asia. But the more we dig, the more we uncover traces of others, explorers, traders, perhaps even kings who may have crossed these oceans long before him. The history we were handed in school is not wrong, but it feels incomplete, like a book missing its opening chapters. The Americas were not a blank slate waiting for European sails. They were home to civilizations that rivaled those of the Old World, with towering pyramids, intricate road systems, and knowledge of the stars that still baffles us today. Yet, alongside these achievements, lie anomalies, artifacts too old, ruins too advanced, and stories too strange to fit the timeline we were given. Consider this: fossilized footprints in White Sands, New Mexico, pressed into the earth alongside tracks of mammoths and giant sloths, dated to 21,000 years ago. Stone tools in Brazil, possibly shaped by human hands 32,000 years ago. A city in Peru, older than Egypt's pyramids, built with seismic-resistant stonework that modern engineers still study. These are not mere curiosities. They are cracks in the foundation of what we believe about human history in the Americas. The standard tale tells us that humans arrived here around 13,000 years ago, crossing a land bridge from Asia. But these discoveries push that timeline back, forcing us to ask, how long have people truly been here? And who were they? Were they simple hunter-gatherers? Or did they belong to societies we have yet to name, lost to jungles, deserts, or the depths of the sea? The mysteries deepen when we consider the possibility of contact from distant lands. Ancient maps hint at knowledge of the Americas before Columbus. Strange carvings resemble faces from Africa. Pottery in South America mirrors designs from Asia. Even the legends of the native peoples speak of visitors from across the waters, of great canoes and shining cities now submerged. These are not just stories. They are echoes of a past we have been slow to hear. And then there is Abu Bakr II, whose audacious voyage challenges us to rethink the very idea of discovery. Did his ships reach these shores, leaving traces in the cultures that followed? Or did they vanish into a greater enigma, one that ties the Americas to a lost world, perhaps even the fabled Atlantis? Tonight, we will explore these questions. We will journey from the jungles of the Amazon to the deserts of Peru, from the cenotes of the Yucatan to the submerged stones of the Caribbean. So, settle in, let your mind wander, and prepare to see the Americas through new eyes, not as a land discovered, but as a world that has always been here, waiting for us to remember its secrets. The history of the Americas begins with a single, tidy story. Humans crossed a frozen land bridge from Asia to Alaska some 13,000 years ago, spreading slowly across a wild, empty continent. This is the Bering Strait migration theory, the cornerstone of what we have been taught about the peopling of the New World. It is neat, logical, and widely accepted, supported by genetic links between Native Americans and Northern Asians, as well as ancient tools found in places like Clovis, New Mexico. But what if this story, so confidently etched into textbooks, is only a sliver of the truth? What if the past is not a straight line but a tangled web of journeys, forgotten peoples, and silenced discoveries? Beneath the surface of this official narrative, archaeological finds are emerging that defy the timeline, challenge the assumptions, and whisper of a far more complex history, one that stretches back tens of thousands of years and spans oceans we were told could not be crossed. Let us start with the evidence, the stubborn traces that refuse to fit the mold. In southern Chile, at a site called Monteverde, archaeologists uncovered something astonishing: the remains of a settlement dating back over 18,000 years. Not just a few scattered bones or crude tools, but signs of a sophisticated community houses built with wooden frames, covered with animal hides, and secured with plant fibers twisted into ropes. There were hearths for cooking, remnants of medicinal plants, and even evidence of a diet that included seaweed, suggesting these people traveled to the coast 18,000 years ago, 5,000 years before the Bering Land Bridge was supposed to have opened the Americas to human feet. People were already living this far south. How did they get there? By what route? And how long had they been in the Americas before settling in this remote corner of Chile? The Bering theory, with its narrow window of migration, begins to crack under the weight of such findings. Further north, in White Sands, New Mexico, another discovery sends shockwaves through the academic world. Hundreds of fossilized human footprints, preserved in ancient lakebed sediment, lie alongside tracks of mammoths, giant ground sloths, and long-extinct birds. Radiocarbon dating places these prints between 21,000 and 23,000 years ago, a time when the Bering Land Bridge was still locked in ice. These are not isolated marks, but trails of movement, children running, adults carrying toddlers, groups crossing wet earth as if fleeing or exploring. The precision of the dating, based on seeds layered above and below the prints, is hard to dismiss. Yet, for decades, findings like these were ignored or labeled anomalies because they did not fit the accepted narrative. The question is not just when humans arrived, but who they were and what kind of societies they built in a world we imagine as primitive. In Brazil, at Pedra Furada, the challenge grows sharper. Archaeologists uncovered stone flakes, some dated to 32,000 years ago, that many believe were shaped by human hands. These are not natural formations, but tools, chipped and flaked with purpose. Yet, because they predate the Bering timeline by so long, they were dismissed by some scholars not for lack of evidence, but because they were simply too old to be believable. The rejection came not from data but from a mindset, a refusal to let go of a story that felt safe and familiar. This is where the mystery deepens, where the past begins to feel less like history and more like a puzzle with missing pieces. If humans were crafting tools in South America 32,000 years ago, what does that say about their journey? Did they come from Asia, as we have been told? Or could they have arrived by other routes, across other oceans? This brings us to one of the most provocative ideas, the Solutrean hypothesis. It suggests that ancient Europeans, from what is now France and Spain, crossed the Atlantic Ocean along the edge of ice sheets some 20,000 years ago, bringing with them distinctive stone tools. These tools, found in places like the Topper site in South Carolina, bear striking similarities to those of the Solutrean culture in Europe. Thin, finely crafted blades that predate the Clovis culture by thousands of years. The Topper site, buried beneath the Clovis layer, revealed artifacts that could push human presence in North America back to 16,000 or even 20,000 years ago. The idea is controversial, not because the evidence is weak, but because it upends the Bering-centric view. It suggests that the Americas were a crossroads, not a cul-de-sac, with people arriving from multiple directions, perhaps by boat, following ice edges or ocean currents, long before the land bridge thawed. But why would such evidence be sidelined? The answer lies not in science, but in the human tendency to cling to comfortable truths. Radiocarbon dating, often hailed as the gold standard of archaeology, is not infallible. It relies on assumptions about stable atmospheric carbon levels, yet cosmic radiation, volcanic eruptions, or natural disasters can skew results by thousands of years. At Teotihuacan, Mexico, charred wood fragments were dated to an astonishing 250,000 years old, an age so incompatible with the accepted timeline that the findings were dismissed as contamination without thorough investigation. The excavation was shut down, the evidence shelved. Similarly, at Pedra Furada, where organic material was scarce, conservative archaeologists argued that the stone tools were naturally rounded by water or wind, despite patterns suggesting human craftsmanship. These rejections often stem from a deeper issue, a reluctance to rewrite history when it threatens established theories. The past, it seems, is not a fixed point but a living question. Every new discovery, every footprint, every tool, every ruin pushes us to reconsider what we thought we knew. The Bering Strait theory, while grounded in genetic and archaeological data, cannot account for the growing number of sites that predate it. Monte Verde, White Sands, Pedra Furada, and Topper are not isolated oddities. They are part of a pattern, a chorus of evidence suggesting that humans were here far earlier, perhaps in ways we have yet to imagine. Were they solitary bands of hunters, or did they belong to organized societies with technologies and beliefs we have lost to time? The artifacts themselves offer clues. Spear tips buried too deep for known cultures, pottery shards with designs that echo distant lands, even metal tools that defy the technological timeline of the Americas. As you listen to these whispers from the past, where are you tuning in from? Share your corner of the world in the comments, and let us know what time it is where you are, because history, like these stories, knows no borders. These findings do more than stretch the timeline, they challenge the very idea of discovery. The narrative of Columbus, as the first to bridge the old and new worlds, ignores the possibility that others, Europeans, Africans, Asians, or even unknown peoples may have crossed these oceans long before. Ancient maps like the Piri Reis, drawn in 1513, show coastlines of the Americas with uncanny accuracy, hinting at knowledge predating European voyages. Native legends speak of visitors from across the sea, of great canoes and shining cities now lost. Could these be memories of real encounters, erased by time or by those who wrote the histories? As we sift through the earth, we find not just tools and footprints but questions that demand a new kind of listening, one that dares to hear the past's whispers, even when they unsettle the stories we have been told. Picture yourself standing at the mouth of a shadowed cave in the Nevada desert, the dry wind carrying echoes of ancient legends that refuse to die. Lovelock Cave, a place where history and myth collide in ways that send chills down the spine of even the most skeptical archaeologist. The Paiute people tell tales of the Site-Ka, a race of red-haired giants, cannibals who terrorized the land until the tribes trapped them in this very cave, setting fires to smoke them out. But when miners and excavators delved into its depths in the early 20th century, what they uncovered was no ordinary find oversized sandals, massive handprints etched into the rock, and bones that seemed too large for ordinary humans. Reports from the time speak of mummified remains, some with red hair, measuring up to 8 feet tall. Yet, as quickly as these discoveries surfaced, they vanished. The bones, artifacts, and evidence disappeared into private collections or, as some whisper, were spirited away by institutions like the Smithsonian to keep the truth hidden. Why? Could acknowledging a race of giants upend our understanding of human evolution? Or is there something more sinister at play? A deliberate erasure to maintain the illusion of a simple, linear history? Step deeper into the cave's lore, and the mysteries multiply. Archaeological digs in 1911 and 1912 revealed not just human remains, but finely woven baskets, obsidian arrowheads, and tools that spoke of a culture far more advanced than wandering nomads. The Paiute legends describe these giants as formidable warriors, 7 to 10 feet tall, with pale skin and fiery hair, who built boats from reeds to raid across the ancient lakes. Skeletons found here, some claim, showed unusual skull shapes elongated, perhaps deformed intentionally, or evidence of a distinct people. But where are those skeletons now? Contemporary accounts from miners describe unearthing a mummified body with red hair, yet official records dismiss it all as exaggeration or misidentification. Conspiracy theorists point fingers at government cover-ups, suggesting that admitting to giants would force a rewrite of history, conflicting with biblical timelines or evolutionary dogma. Recent genetic analyses of ancient DNA from the cave have aimed to debunk the myths, linking the remains to local Native American populations, but the legends persist. Handprints twice the size of a modern man's, imprinted in guano and rock, beg the question: were these the marks of giants, or clever forgeries? And if real, what cataclysm, flood, battle, or disease wiped them from the earth, leaving only whispers in the wind? Shift your gaze southward, across continents, to the sun-baked rocks of Pedra Furada in Brazil, where another enigma challenges the boundaries of time. Here, in a remote corner of Piauí, archaeologists like Guidon have unearthed stone flakes and tools that some date back 50,000 years, long before humans were supposed to have set foot in the Americas. The site, a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure since 1991, boasts hearths, charcoal remnants, and quartzite artifacts that scream of human craftsmanship. Imagine chipping away at stone under an ancient sky, fashioning tools for survival in a world teeming with megafauna. But controversy swirls like dust storms around these finds. Critics, after visiting in 1993, labeled the stones as geofacts, natural formations mistaken for man-made tools. The debate rages: are the fracture patterns deliberate, shaped by skilled hands, or the random work of rivers and wind? Guidon's team pushes back, citing rock art paintings of hunters and animals that could be 30,000 years old, preserved in shelters that echo with the ghosts of prehistoric life. The intrigue at Pedra Furada is not just about dates, it is about the human story it implies. If people were here 41 to 56,000 years ago, how did they arrive? By coastal routes from Africa, hugging the shores in primitive boats, or across the Pacific from Australia? The site's layers reveal a sequence of occupation, from hearths dated to 32,000 years to more recent tools, suggesting continuous human presence. Yet mainstream archaeology hesitates, demanding more proof amid accusations of weak data. Independent researchers argue that the dismissal stems from bias, a stubborn adherence to the Bering Strait model that cannot accommodate such antiquity. What if Pedra Furada holds the key to multiple migrations, waves of people from diverse origins, blending cultures in ways we have yet to fathom? The paintings, vivid in red ochre, depict scenes of daily life, hunts and rituals, but their age is contested. Could they be the oldest art in the Americas, or clever illusions of time? The site's isolation adds to the allure, a place where the past feels alive, urging us to question: what other secrets lie buried in its red earth, waiting for a shovel to reveal them? Now, let your mind wander to the gypsum dunes of White Sands in New Mexico, where footprints frozen in time tell a tale of pursuit and peril. These are no ordinary tracks. They mingle with those of mammoths and ground sloths, dated to 21 to 23,000 years ago. Envision a group of ancient humans, perhaps a family crossing a muddy lakebed, their steps preserved as if in amber. Children splash playfully, adults stride purposefully, and in one dramatic sequence, a lone traveler carries a child, their prints deepening under the weight. Nearby, mammoth tracks intersect, suggesting encounters with these colossal beasts. Were these people, hunters, stalking prey across the Ice Age landscape, or wanderers fleeing danger? The footprints capture motion, emotion-quickened paces, slips in the mud, even a possible hunt where human tracks circle a sloth's path, ending in what might have been a kill. The White Sands discovery, confirmed by radiocarbon dating of seeds in the sediment, has rewritten timelines, pushing human presence back by 10,000 years. But the mysteries extend beyond dates. Some tracks show interactions with extinct animals, humans stepping over mammoth prints, or vice versa, hinting at a world where our ancestors coexisted with giants of another kind. Conspiracy whispers emerge here too. Why were these prints overlooked for so long? Discovered only in 2009? Do they point to lost technologies or forgotten knowledge? Recent studies reveal even more: a woman's 2-mile journey carrying a child, harassed by predators, her path a testament to endurance. These prints are stories etched in earth, raising endless curiosities. What drove these people? What languages did they speak? And how many other such trails lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting to unravel more enigmas? As we piece together these sites, Lovelock's vanished giants, Pedro Furada's contested tools, White Sand's timeless steps, the past emerges not as a solved puzzle but as a labyrinth of wonders. Climate shifts, massive floods, or cosmic events might have erased entire civilizations, leaving only fragments that tease our imagination. Native legends, like the Paiutes giants or Brazilian indigenous tales of ancient arrivals, blend with science, suggesting truths we have dismissed as myth. Governments and institutions, some claim, suppress findings to avoid chaos, admitting giants or ultra-ancient humans could shatter worldviews. Yet, the evidence persists. Elongated skulls in Lovelock, debated but documented. Stone art in Pedro Furada, vivid and ancient. Footprints in White Sands, undeniable and profound. Each site invites us to ponder the cataclysms that swallowed societies, great floods reshaping continents, or ice ages burying secrets. What if these anomalies are not errors but echoes of a forgotten epoch, where humans navigated oceans, built wonders, and vanished, leaving us to chase their shadows in the night? Let us walk into the steamy jungles of ancient Mesoamerica, where the air hums with the weight of secrets carved in stone and whispered through time. Here, the Olmec and Maya civilizations rose, not as fleeting sparks in a primitive world, but as blazing beacons of human ingenuity, their legacies etched into colossal heads, towering pyramids, and submerged sacred waters. These were not mere societies. They were architects of mysteries that still confound us, leaving behind riddles that defy the tidy narratives of history. What drove the Olmec to sculpt massive stone heads with features that spark whispers of distant continents? How did the Maya, with no metal tools or wheels, master the stars and build cities that seem to align with the cosmos? And why do their stories, so rich with wonder, carry echoes of extraterrestrial visitors or lost worlds that refuse to stay buried? Begin with the Olmec, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, who thrived in the swampy lowlands of Mexico's Gulf Coast, around 1600 to 400 years before the Common Era. Imagine a people who transformed muddy riverbanks into thriving centers of culture, their hands shaping the earth into pyramids, and their minds crafting a society that laid the foundation for every Mesoamerican civilization to follow. At San Lorenzo and La Venta, they built earthworks and a 30-foot-tall pyramid, not with iron or machinery, but with sheer determination and knowledge we still struggle to comprehend. Their most striking creations are the colossal heads, 17 massive basalt sculptures, some over 11 feet high, weighing up to 50 tons. Each head, with its distinct helmet and enigmatic expression, seems to stare through time, guarding secrets we cannot fully grasp. Were these portraits of revered rulers, gods, or something else entirely? The features' broad noses, full lips have fueled speculation for decades. Some see African traits, suggesting ancient voyages across the Atlantic, a theory championed by scholars like Ivan van Sertima. Others whisper of extraterrestrial influence, pointing to the precision of the carvings and their sheer scale as evidence of otherworldly guidance, a notion popularized by Erich von Däniken's ancient astronaut theories. The Olmec were not just sculptors, they were innovators. They developed a writing system, Olmec hieroglyphs, a proto-script that remains undeciphered. hinting at a complexity rivaling later Mayan codices. Their society was stratified, with artisans, farmers, and a ruling class orchestrating religious rituals and trade networks that stretched across Mesoamerica. They harvested rubber from tree sap, earning the name Rubber People, and used it to craft balls for a ceremonial game played on stone courts, a tradition that echoed through later cultures. This game, far from mere sport, was a cosmic ritual, its heavy rubber ball up to 9 pounds, symbolizing celestial bodies or the struggle between life and death. Some say the losers face sacrifice, their blood offered to appease the gods. The Olmec's prosperity came from trade, their rubber, jade, and obsidian flowing to distant regions. Yet their decline around 400 years before the Common Era remains a mystery. Was it environmental collapse, internal strife, or something more cataclysmic? Their cities were abandoned, swallowed by jungle, leaving behind stone sentinels that still challenge our understanding. Now, shift to the Maya, whose civilization stretched across the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala, weaving a tapestry of city-states that flourished from the pre-classic period, around 2,000 years before the Common Era, to their peak in the Classic period, roughly 250 to 900 years after. Picture Tikal, a metropolis of up to 100,000 souls, its skyline pierced by pyramids that reached for the heavens, their steps stained with the blood of rituals. The Maya were not just builders, they were astronomers, mathematicians, and storytellers who wove their knowledge into every stone. Their long count calendar, a marvel of precision, tracked time across millennia, sparking modern myths of a world ending in 2012, a misunderstanding of their cyclical view of time. The calendar's next cycle, the 15th Bakr, will not arrive until March 26, 2407, a testament to their foresight. At Palenque, the Temple of Inscriptions stands as a monument to this sophistication, its limestone slab covered in glyphs that recount the life of King Pakal, who ruled for 68 years, one of the longest reigns in history. The tomb's carvings, discovered in 1952, depict Pakal in what some interpret as a spacecraft, fueling theories of extraterrestrial contact. Erich von Däniken argued the figure's pose surrounded by intricate symbols resembles an astronaut at a control panel, a claim dismissed by scholars but persistent in popular imagination. The Maya's astronomical prowess lends credence to such speculation. They tracked Venus's movements, timing wars to its cycles, and aligned their pyramids with constellations, as seen at Chichen Itza, where the El Castillo pyramid casts a serpent's shadow during equinoxes. Were these alignments purely practical, aiding agriculture, or did they reflect a cosmic connection, a belief that their cities mirrored the heavens? The Maya society was a complex web of kings, priests, artisans, and farmers, with women like Pakal's mother wielding power in religious and political spheres. Their writing system, a blend of logograms and phonetic glyphs, recorded everything from royal genealogies to celestial events on deerskin and tree bark. Tragically, Spanish priests burned most of these codices in the 16th century, leaving only stone inscriptions to tell their story. The city of Copan, with its intricate sculptures, and Calakmul, a rival to Tikal, reveal a world of constant warfare, where capturing enemy rulers for sacrifice was the ultimate offering to gods like Itzamna, the creator deity, or the jaguar god of the underworld. The ball game, inherited from the Olmec, was central here too, played in sacred courts where the outcome might decide life or death, echoing myths of the hero twins who faced the gods in the underworld. Xibalba. The Maya's cenotes' natural sinkholes in the Yucatan add another layer of enigma. These were not just water sources but portals to Xibalba, where rituals and sacrifices took place. Divers in the Sac Actun cave system have found submerged altars, scorched surfaces, and miniature deity statues, suggesting ceremonies in places where sunlight never reached. At Cenote Holtun, near Chichen Itza, geophysical radar revealed a vast water-filled cave beneath the El Castillo pyramid, hinting that the Maya built their sacred sites atop these underworld gateways. Some skeletons in cenotes, like those in Hoyo Negro, date back 12,000 years, predating the Maya, and suggesting these caves were used for millennia, first as dry shelters, then flooded sanctuaries as sea levels rose after the Ice Age. Were these intentional descents into the underworld, or evidence of a forgotten people who lived there before the waters came? The collapse of the Mayas' classic period, around 900 years after the Common Era, is one of history's great mysteries. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan were abandoned, their stone plazas reclaimed by jungle. Was it drought, as some climate studies suggest, with tree ring data pointing to prolonged dry spells? Or was it war, disease, or overpopulation straining their resources? Some propose a more fantastical cause, intervention by extraterrestrial beings who guided their rise and then left, a theory fueled by the spacecraft. Like carvings and the Mayas' uncanny astronomical knowledge, others see echoes of a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, in their concentric city designs and advanced mathematics, as Plato's descriptions of a sunken utopia resonate with submerged ruins found off the Caribbean coast. These civilizations, Olmec and Maya, were not isolated. Their trade networks stretched across Mesoamerica, their ideas influencing the Zapotec, Teotihuacan, and Aztec. But their mysteries linger, from the Olmec's African-like heads to the Mayas' star-aligned cities and vanished codices. Why were their achievements downplayed for so long? Did colonial powers suppress their legacy to justify conquest? Or does the truth lie in the artifacts themselves, tools, glyphs, and cenotes that hint at connections to distant lands or even other worlds? Step into a world where the sun and moon are not just celestial bodies but gods immortalized in stone, where cities pulse with the rhythm of sacrifice and trade, and where the echoes of lost empires whisper secrets that defy our understanding. In the heart of ancient Mesoamerica, beyond the jungles of the Maya and the Olmec's colossal heads, four civilizations, Teotihuacan, Zapotec, Toltec, and Aztec, rose to sculpt a legacy that challenges the boundaries of time. Each built wonders that rival the old world's greatest, yet their stories are laced with enigmas. Why did a metropolis burn itself to ash? How did a mountain people craft temples that defy earthquakes? What drove warriors to forge empires, only to vanish into legend? And could their sacred symbols, from feathered serpents to cosmic stones, hide connections to a forgotten global past? First, we stand in the shadow of Teotihuacan, a city so vast it was called the place where the gods were created. Emerging around 100 years before the Common Era in the fertile valley of Mexico, it grew into a metropolis of 125 to 200,000 souls by 250 to 500 years after. Walk its central artery, the Avenue of the Dead, and feel the weight of history. To one side, the Pyramid of the Sun, the third largest pyramid in the world, its base rivaling Giza's. To the other, the Pyramid of the Moon, gazing over a city planned with geometric precision. This was no haphazard settlement, but a grid of neighborhoods, elite palaces, and apartment complexes for laborers and artisans, all adorned with murals of jaguars, gods, and cosmic battles. Teotihuacan thrived on trade, its markets bustling with obsidian volcanic glass, shaped into blades and mirrors, exported across Mesoamerica. Nearby mines fueled this wealth, but the city's heart was its religion. Human sacrifices, their hearts offered to the gods, stained the pyramid steps, often accompanied by pulque, a potent agave liquor used in rituals. Yet, Teotihuacan harbors a mystery that chills the bones. Around 550 years after the Common Era, the city was sacked and burned, not by invaders, but, some believe, by its own people. Charred remains of temples and palaces suggest an internal revolt, perhaps sparked by inequality or a volcanic winter in 536 that crippled agriculture. By 700, the city was a ghost, its streets silent, its wealth carried away. Some whisper of a deeper cause, a cosmic event, perhaps a comet or meteor, foretold in the stars and murals, driving the population to madness or exodus. Others point to the city's alignments. The Pyramid of the Sun faces the setting of the Pleiades, a constellation tied to Mesoamerican cosmology. Could Teotihuacan have been a celestial observatory, its destruction tied to a prophecy unrecorded? The absence of written records leaves us guessing, But the ruins speak of a society that knew more than we credit: urban planners, astronomers, and priests who built a city to mirror the heavens, only to see it consumed by flames. High in the Oaxaca highlands, the Zapotec carved a different path. Their city of Monte Alban perched like an eagle's nest overlooking the valley. Emerging around 500 years before the Common Era, they reached their zenith in the Classic period, around 200 to 900 years after. This was a theocracy, ruled by priests who wielded divine authority, their temples and pyramids rising from mountains they carved into terraces. Most Zapotec were farmers or artisans, living in cliffside dwellings, their lives woven into the cycles of maize and ritual. Monte Alban stelae, carved with glyphs and figures, hint at a writing system, though less developed than the Mayas. The city's ball courts, like those of the Olmec, hosted games where life and death hung in the balance, the ball's movement echoing cosmic struggles. Yet, around 900, Monte Alban was abandoned, its people dispersing without explanation. Was it drought, as tree ring data suggests, or internal strife? Some speculate a spiritual crisis, a loss of faith in the priestly class, drove them away. Others point to the site's astronomical alignments, suggesting the Zapotec, like their neighbors, built to commune with the stars. Could a celestial event, a misread omen, have signaled the end? The Toltec, rising in the post-classic period around 900 to 1122 years after the Common Era, filled the void left by Teotihuacan's fall. From their capital at Tula, they forged an empire that dominated central Mexico, their influence stretching to the Mayas' Chichen Itza. The Toltec were warriors, their art depicting feathered serpent gods like Quetzalcoatl, who symbolized wisdom and creation. Tula's pyramids and colossal statues, called Atlanteans, stand as testaments to their power, yet their decline is shrouded in mystery. By 1122, Tula was abandoned, possibly due to drought, revolts, or invasions by northern tribes. Legends speak of a Toltec king, exiled and promising to return, a myth that later haunted the Aztec when Cortés arrived, mistaken for Quetzalcoatl. Some researchers see Toltec influence in distant lands. Similarities in Chichen Itza's architecture suggest cultural exchange, but could their reach have been even broader? Fringe theories propose Toltec voyages across the Pacific, their serpent motifs echoing Polynesian designs. No hard evidence supports this, but the precision of their stonework and the spread of their iconography raise questions about their connections to a wider world. The Aztec, emerging in the 1200s, built the grandest empire of Mesoamerica, their capital Tenochtitlan, a marvel on Lake Texcoco. Founded in 1325 after a prophecy, an eagle on a cactus eating a snake, they created a city of floating gardens, chinampas, feeding hundreds of thousands. By 1428, their triple alliance with Texcoco and Tlacopan dominated the region, ruled by a monarch claiming divine descent. Huitzilopochtli, their war god, demanded blood, and the Aztec obliged, sacrificing thousands on the Templo Maya's steps. Their sunstone, a 24-ton monolith, maps cosmic cycles, its carvings hinting at a fifth world doomed to end in earthquakes. Could this reflect memories of a cataclysm, perhaps tied to Atlantis-like legends of a sunken world? The Aztecs' writing, derived from Zapotec glyphs, recorded their history on fig tree bark, but Spanish conquest destroyed most records, leaving stone inscriptions to tell their tale. The Aztecs' fall in 1521 to Cortés was not just military defeat but a cultural erasure, their codices burned, their gods demonized. Yet, their achievements, canals rivaling Venice, astronomy predicting eclipses, suggest a sophistication that challenges Eurocentric narratives. Conspiracy theories swirl. Did the Spanish suppress evidence of Aztec knowledge to justify colonization? Some claim the sunstone encodes secrets of a lost technology, its concentric rings echoing Plato's Atlantis. Others point to similarities with Egyptian sun worship, suggesting ancient transatlantic contact. The Aztecs' chinampas, sustainable even today, hint at ecological wisdom modern cities lack. Why then were their contributions marginalized, their cities reduced to savage ruins in colonial accounts? These civilizations, Teotihuacan's cosmic grid, Zapotec's mountain sanctuaries, Toltec's warrior legacy, Aztec's island empire share a thread of mystery. Their sudden ends. Climate data points to droughts, but murals and myths suggest deeper fears, comets, God's wrath, or prophecies of collapse. Fringe theories propose external influences, extraterrestrial guidance in Teotihuacan's alignments, or survivors of a lost continent shaping Aztec cosmology. The absence of records fuels speculation, but the ruins themselves, pyramids, glyphs, and stones whisper of a past where humans touched the divine, only to be silenced by time, conquest, or something stranger. As we trace their steps, we wonder, were these societies isolated or nodes in a global network, their secrets buried to preserve a simpler history? If these ancient whispers stir your curiosity, consider joining our journey by subscribing and tapping the bell to stay with us as we uncover more mysteries. Share your thoughts below. What do these ruins say to you? Imagine standing on a barren ridge in Peru's Soup Valley, the sun scorching the earth, where rain is a stranger, and the rivers carve life from desolation. Here, in a land that seems hostile to human ambition, the Norte Chico civilization defied the odds, building one of the world's earliest cities over 5,000 years ago. Further south, the Chavín wove their faith into stone and tunnels, the Nazca etched cryptic designs into the desert, and the Inca forged an empire that stretched from mountain to sea. These Andean civilizations, Norte, Chico, Chavín, Nazca, and Inca, did not just survive, they thrived in landscapes that would break lesser spirits, leaving behind wonders that challenge our assumptions about the past. What secrets drove them to master the impossible? Could their works, mounds older than Egypt, lines visible only from the sky, roads spanning thousands of miles hint at knowledge we have lost, or connections to realms beyond our own? We begin with Norte Chico, a name that belies its grandeur, flourishing around 3,700 to 1,800 years before the Common Era. In the arid valleys of northern Peru, where rain shadows and trade winds create one of the driest regions on Earth, this pre-ceramic society built Caral, a city so ancient it rivals Old Kingdom Egypt. Picture a sprawling complex of six-stepped pyramids, circular plazas, and stone structures, all crafted without pottery or metal tools. The people of Norte Chico were maritime at first, harvesting fish and seafood, but their genius lay in irrigation. They channeled melted snow from the Andes through the Fortaleza, Patavilca, and Supe rivers, transforming desert into fertile fields. By the second millennium before the Common Era, Caral was among the most densely populated places on the planet, its inhabitants weaving cotton nets and trading with distant communities. No art survives, no carvings, no pottery, only massive earthworks, some over 60 feet tall, stand as silent witnesses. Why did they build without adornment? Was it pragmatism or a spiritual choice, their faith poured into the earth itself? Their decline around 1,800 years before the Common Era is a mystery, perhaps drought or migration to greener lands, but their irrigation techniques spread, seeding future Andean cultures. Now, journey to the highlands, where the Chavín culture emerged around 900 years before the Common Era, marking the early horizon. At Chavín de Huántar, over 10,000 feet above sea level, they built a temple complex that feels like a portal to another world. Envision a labyrinth of underground tunnels, their walls carved with snarling jaguars, serpents, and gods with human-animal faces. These corridors, ventilated by stone ducts, were not just architectural feats but stages for intense rituals, possibly fueled by hallucinogenic plants like San Pedro cactus. The lanzon, a monolithic granite pillar, stands at the heart, depicting a deity with fangs and claws, its gaze piercing the darkness. Above ground, stone statues and a solar observatory near Lima hint at astronomical knowledge, tracking solstices with eerie precision. By 200 years before the Common Era, Chavín faded, perhaps due to environmental shifts or cultural fragmentation, but their art, gold and copper metalworks, intricate reliefs suggests a society in communion with the cosmos. Some speculate these tunnels were psychic gateways, designed to connect priests with divine forces or even extraterrestrial entities, a theory fueled by the otherworldly iconography. Did the Chavín know secrets of the stars? Or were their visions induced by plants, not aliens? Descend to the desert plains of southern Peru, where the Nazca culture, thriving from 100 to 800 years after the Common Era, left marks that defy explanation. The Nazca lines, etched into the arid soil, stretch across miles, gigantic figures of monkeys, spiders, hummingbirds, and geometric shapes, visible only from the air. Imagine standing atop a hill, gazing at a 400-foot condor, etched with such precision it seems impossible without aerial guidance. Created by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter earth, these geoglyphs have sparked endless debate. Were they offerings to gods, irrigation maps, or astronomical calendars? Erich von Däniken famously proposed they were landing strips for alien spacecraft, a theory dismissed by scholars but persistent in its allure. The Nazca also built puquios, underground aqueducts that carried water across the desert without evaporation, some still functioning today. Their pottery, vibrant with images of warriors and deities, suggests a martial culture, yet their decline by 800 remains obscure, perhaps drought, over-farming, or invasion. The lines endure, untouched by time, whispering questions. Were they meant for eyes in the sky, or for gods who never answered? Finally, ascend to the Andes' peaks, where the Inca forged the largest pre-Columbian empire, Tawantinsuyu, from the 1200s to the 1500s. From their capital at Cusco, 10,000 feet high, they unified regions from Colombia to Chile, under leaders like Pachacuti, the Sapa Inca. Picture Machu Picchu, a citadel perched on cliffs, its stones cut so precisely they fit without mortar, defying earthquakes. The Inca's road system, stretching 25,000 miles, rivaled Rome's, with runners relaying messages at speeds of 140 miles a day. Their terraces, carved into mountainsides, created microclimates for maize and potatoes, fed by intricate irrigation. The Coricancha, a temple to the sun god Inti, gleamed with gold plates, its walls aligned to capture solstice rays. The Inca had no writing but used quipu knotted strings for numerical records encoding data with a complexity that baffles modern scholars. Their oral tradition preserved plays like Ollantay, blending theatre with reed music. Yet, their warlike nature, with armies of 200,000, conquered and assimilated, spreading Quechua and their sun cult. By 1532, Spanish conquest ended their reign, but not before disease and internal strife weakened them. The Inca's mysteries are manifold. Machu Picchu, often called the Lost City, was never truly lost local. Quechua knew of it, but its purpose remains debated. Was it a royal retreat, a spiritual sanctuary, or a fortress hidden from invaders? Some fringe theories suggest it was a cosmic observatory, its stones aligned with ley lines or energy fields, a notion tied to New Age beliefs about Andean mysticism. The quipu, undeciphered beyond numbers, might hold narratives we cannot read. Could it encode astronomical or even extraterrestrial knowledge? The Incas' terraces and roads suggest a mastery of geography unmatched in their time, yet their rapid fall to a handful of conquistadors raises questions. Did they succumb to smallpox, as historical records indicate, or was there a deeper betrayal, perhaps foretold in their myths? Some speculate the Inca hid their gold, not from greed, but to protect sacred knowledge, with legends of El Dorado rooted in their lost treasures. These Andean cultures, Norte Chico's silent mounds, Chavin's mystic tunnels, Nazca's skyward lines, Inca's mountain empire share a thread of defiance against nature's harshest landscapes. Their achievements rival Mesopotamia or Egypt, yet their stories were overshadowed by colonial narratives. Conspiracy theories abound. Were the Nazca lines signals for extraterrestrials, as von Däniken claimed? Did the Inca inherit knowledge from a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, as their precise stonework and concentric city layouts echo Plato's tales? Why were Norte Chico's earthworks built without art, as if to hide their purpose? Modern discoveries, geoglyphs found via satellite, quipu analyzed with AI, hint at untapped secrets. The Andes hold more than ruins. They guard questions about human potential, cosmic connections, and a past that might link to drowned cities or forgotten voyages. Close your eyes and imagine a vast floodplain along the Mississippi River, where a city rises from the earth, its towering mounds casting long shadows over a landscape alive with ritual and trade. This is Cahokia, the heart of the Mississippian culture, a beacon of complexity in ancient North America. Now shift your gaze to the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, where the Taino and Caribs crafted vibrant societies on islands kissed by trade winds, only to face the first waves of European conquest. These civilizations, Mississippian, ancient Pueblo, Taino, and Caribs, wove a tapestry of human achievement across North America and the Caribbean, their stories brimming with intrigue. Why did a thriving metropolis vanish in a heartbeat? What secrets lie buried in cliffside dwellings? And could the submerged stones of the Bahamas whisper of a lost world? Perhaps Atlantis itself. These are tales not of conquest, but of resilience, of cultures that flourished against the odds, leaving questions that echo through time. Let us begin at Cahokia, in what is now Illinois, where the Mississippian culture reached its zenith around 1200 years after the Common Era. Picture a city of 20,000, the largest in North America for 6 centuries, its skyline dominated by Monk's Mound, a massive earthwork, larger than Egypt's Great Pyramid at its base. This was no simple village but a hub of power, its plazas bustling with traders exchanging copper, shells, and maize. The Mississippians, named for the river that sustained them, built dozens of smaller mounds, some for burials, others for ceremonies, their society governed by a centralized elite of priests and chiefs. Their game of chunky rolling disc-shaped stones and hurling spears to predict their landing drew crowds, forging alliances with neighboring villages. Yet, around 1400, Cahokia was abandoned, its people scattering as warfare intensified, and the Little Ice Age chilled the land, making farming precarious. Some whisper of a darker cause, a societal collapse driven by overpopulation or a prophecy unrecorded. Fringe theories, rooted in 19th century speculation, suggest the mounds were built by a lost race, perhaps the biblical lost tribes of Israel, as Mormon scholars once claimed. The mounds' precise alignments with solstices hint at astronomical knowledge, raising questions. Were they temples to the stars, or markers for a forgotten cataclysm? Travel southwest to the Four Corners, where the ancient Pueblo people, once misnamed Anasazi, crafted a civilization in the arid deserts of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. By 750 years after the Common Era, they transitioned from basket-making nomads to builders of urban centers, their roads linking communities in a vast trade network. At Chaco Canyon, they erected Pueblo Bonito, a great house of multi-story stone rooms housing elite families, its kivas circular underground chambers hosting rituals under starlit skies. By 1150, they migrated to Mesa Verde, carving cliff dwellings into canyon walls, some holding 100 people. These intricate homes, with timber roofs and plastered walls, suggest a society adept at defying the desert's harshness through irrigation and collective labor. Yet, by 1300, Mesa Verde was deserted, its people moving south, possibly driven by drought or raids, as tree ring data and archaeological evidence suggest. Some speculate a spiritual crisis, with kivas abandoned mid-ceremony, or even extraterrestrial influence, as New Age theorists claim Chaco's alignments mirror cosmic patterns. The Hopi, descendants of the Pueblo, preserve oral traditions of a great migration, but what prompted it? Were the cliff dwellings a last refuge, or a deliberate retreat to protect sacred knowledge? Now sail to the Caribbean, where the Taino, an Arawak-speaking people, thrived on islands like Hispaniola and Puerto Rico by the 1100s. Originating near Venezuela's Orinoco River, they built complex societies led by caciques, chiefs who oversaw economies of fishing and agriculture. Their villages, with circular plazas and thatched homes, buzzed with trade cotton, tobacco, and manioc flowing between islands. Ball courts, similar to those of the Maya, hosted ceremonial games, suggesting cultural exchange across the sea. The Taino's spiritual world revolved around zemis, carved figures embodying gods, their rituals blending dance and tobacco-induced trances. When Christopher Columbus landed in 1492, he met the Taino, describing them as peaceful yet noting their gold ornaments, a detail that sparked European greed. By the 1600s, disease and enslavement decimated them, their culture nearly erased. Yet, their legacy persists in words like hammock and canoe, and in archaeological finds of zemi statues. Some theorists propose Taino myths of seafaring ancestors point to pre-Columbian contact with Mesoamerica, or even Africa, as their art shares motifs with distant cultures. Enter the Caribs, or Kalinago, a fiercer group who arrived in the Lesser Antilles from South America, displacing Taino communities by the 1400s. Known for their warrior ethos, they raided Taino villages, capturing resources and, according to some accounts, women, though these reports may reflect European bias. Their society, less centralized than the Tainos, relied on fishing, cassava farming, and swift canoes that dominated Caribbean waters. Their spiritual practices, rich with shamanic rituals, revered spirits tied to sea and sky. When Columbus encountered them, he painted them as cannibals, a likely exaggeration to justify conquest. The Caribs resisted Spanish incursions fiercely, but disease and violence reduced their numbers. Their descendants endure in Dominica, preserving oral histories that hint at ancient voyages across the Atlantic. Could these tales, like those of the Taino, suggest contact with distant lands, perhaps Africa or Polynesia, long before European sails appeared? The Caribbean holds a deeper enigma. The Bimini Road, a half-kilometre stretch of rectangular stones off the Bahamas, discovered in 1968. These flat, aligned blocks, some cut with precision, resemble an ancient causeway. Geologists argue they are natural limestone formations, but independent researchers see deliberate design angles too uniform, stones too neatly fitted. Some link it to Atlantis, citing Plato's description of a sunken city with concentric rings, positing the Bahamas as its remnant. Sonar scans near Andros Island and Cayo Reef reveal more anomalies, geometric shapes buried under the sea, untouched by divers. Could these be relics of a coastal civilization drowned by rising seas after the Ice Age? Fringe theories suggest a Caribbean hub connecting Mesoamerica, Africa, and even Europe, with ancient mariners navigating favorable currents. The silence following these discoveries stalled excavations, defunded projects, fuels speculation of a cover-up. Why the hesitation to explore? Does the possibility of a pre-Columbian network threaten established narratives? These civilizations, Cahokia's mounds, Pueblo's cliff homes, Taino and Carib Island cultures, reveal a North America and Caribbean far from empty before Columbus. Their achievements, astronomical alignments, trade networks, resilient societies rival Mesoamerica's, yet their stories were sidelined by colonial accounts. The mysteries persist. Cahokia's sudden collapse, Mesa Verde's abandoned kivas, submerged Caribbean stones. Were they isolated or part of a broader web, their ball courts and myths echoing Mesoamerican or even African traditions? Conspiracy theories, from lost tribes to Atlantis, thrive in the gaps, suggesting knowledge suppressed to uphold a Eurocentric discovery myth. Modern finds DNA linking Caribbean peoples to South America. Sonar hinting at sunken cities keep the questions alive. As we trace their faded paths, we wonder, did these cultures know of each other, or of lands beyond the horizon? Their secrets buried not by time, but by those who wrote the history we inherited. If these tales of lost worlds captivate you, dive deeper into our Lost Civilizations playlist, where more ancient enigmas await to spark your dreams. Share your thoughts below. What mystery calls to you most? Envision a stormy sea, waves crashing against fragile boats, as a small band of ancient mariners clings to hope, navigating by stars and ice toward an unknown shore. These are not the polished galleons of the age of exploration, but crude vessels of animal hides and wood, carrying people from a distant Europe to the Americas thousands of years before Columbus ever dreamed of sailing west. The idea seems fantastical, yet traces of such voyages, stone tools, cryptic carvings, and whispered legends linger in the archaeological record, challenging the narrative that the Americas were untouched by Old World feet until 1492, the story of early European contact, from Viking adventurers to the controversial Solutrean hypothesis, and even the enigmatic tales of Celtic monks and Templar knights, is a labyrinth of clues and questions. Did these travelers cross the Atlantic in prehistory? Could their journeys have left marks on the cultures of the New World? And why do these possibilities, so rich with mystery, face resistance from those who guard the gates of history? Let us start with the Vikings, the one undeniable instance of pre-Columbian European contact. Around the year 1000, Norse explorers from Greenland, led by Leif Erikson, landed on a verdant coast they called Vinland, likely modern-day Newfoundland. At Lanceau Meadows, archaeologists uncovered a Norse settlement, long houses, iron nails, and a bronze pin dated to precisely this period. The sagas, oral tales later written down, describe voyages to a land of wild grapes and timber, where the Norse traded with locals they called Skraelings, possibly ancestors of the Beothuk or Inuit, but the settlement was short-lived, abandoned within a decade, perhaps due to harsh winters or conflicts with indigenous peoples. The sagas hint at more encounters with strange customs, skirmishes, and fleeting alliances. Why did the Norse not stay? Were their tales of Vinland suppressed by medieval Europe, uninterested in a distant land? Or did the Church, wary of pagan explorations, bury their stories? The site's discovery in 1960 shook the academic world, proving Europeans reached the Americas 5 centuries before Columbus. Yet it raises deeper questions. Were the Vikings the first? Or merely the first we can confirm? Now, dive into the far more contentious Solutrean hypothesis, a theory that pushes the timeline back to the Ice Age, some 20,000 years ago. Picture hunters from what is now France and Spain, masters of stone craftsmanship, following seals and fish along the edge of Atlantic ice sheets in skin boats. The Solutreans, named for their distinctive tools, created thin, leaf-shaped blades with remarkable precision. Similar tools, found at sites like Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania and the Topper site in South Carolina, date to 16,000 to 20,000 years ago, predating the Clovis culture, long thought to be the Americas' first. These artifacts, with their fluted points and fine flaking, bear an eerie resemblance to Solutrean technology, sparking a theory. Could these ancient Europeans have crossed the Atlantic, hugging the ice bridge, to settle in the New World? Genetic studies complicate the picture. Native American DNA shows strong Asian ancestry, but some argue for rare European markers, like haplogroup X, found in both regions. Critics dismiss the hypothesis, citing the vast ocean distance over 1,600 miles and the lack of direct evidence like boats or settlements. Yet, the tools persist, their craftsmanship a silent challenge to the Bering Strait monopoly. If true, the Solutreans would rewrite the story of human migration, suggesting the Americas were a crossroads long before recorded history. Beyond archaeology, whispers of other European contacts emerge from legend and anomaly. Consider the tales of Saint Brendan, a 6th century Irish monk said to have sailed west in a currach, a hide-covered boat seeking the land of the blessed. His saga, the Navigatio Sancti Brendani, describes islands with strange landscapes, fiery mountains, and crystal pillars, interpreted by some as the Caribbean or North America. In West Virginia, the Grave Creek Stone, discovered in 1838, bears marks some claim resemble Ogham, an ancient Celtic script. Skeptics call it a hoax, but believers see evidence of Irish monks or earlier Celtic explorers reaching American shores. The stone's inscriptions, if genuine, would suggest contact as early as the first millennium, yet its whereabouts are unknown, lost or hidden, fueling speculation of suppression. Why would such artifacts vanish? Could medieval Europe, dominated by the Church, have silenced tales of pre-Christian voyages to maintain control over exploration narratives? The mysteries deepen with the Knights Templar, a medieval order whose wealth and secrecy have sparked endless theories. By the 1300s, the Templars faced persecution in Europe, their treasures rumored to have been spirited away. Some propose they fled to the Americas, pointing to the Newport Tower in Rhode Island, a stone structure with architectural echoes of Templar churches. Carbon dating places its construction around the 1400s, but some argue it predates Columbus, a relic of Templar voyages. The Oak Island Money Pit, off Nova Scotia, adds fuel. A mysterious shaft, discovered in 1795, filled with booby traps and cryptic inscriptions. Theories suggest Templars hid holy relics or gold here, perhaps after learning of the Americas from Norse contacts or ancient maps. No definitive evidence links Oak Island to the Templars, but the site's complexity, wooden platforms, coconut fiber from distant tropics defies easy explanation. Could these be traces of a secret mission, suppressed to protect sacred knowledge or colonial claims? These stories, Viking settlements, Solutrean tools, Celtic monks, Templar treasures, weave a tapestry of possibility, each thread tugging at the edges of official history. The Vikings prove contact was possible, but the Solutreans push the timeline into prehistory, challenging the Bering-centric narrative. Celtic and Templar tales, though speculative, draw on artifacts and legends that refuse to fade. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513, shows the Americas coast with startling accuracy, hinting at pre-Columbian knowledge. Some claim it draws on older sources, perhaps Phoenician or even earlier, suggesting Europeans knew of the New World long before Columbus. Native American oral traditions, like those of the Mi'kmaq, speak of pale-skinned visitors from the sea, their boats unlike any canoe. Were these memories of Norse, Celts, or others lost to time? Why do these ideas face resistance? The Solutrean hypothesis, for instance, stirs controversy not just for its archaeological gaps, but for its implications, suggesting Europeans contributed to Native American ancestry risks undermining indigenous narratives. The Church, in medieval times, may have quashed tales of pagan or heretical voyages to maintain its authority. Modern academia, bound by rigorous standards, often dismisses anomalies as hoaxes or misinterpretations, yet the dismissal feels selective. Artifacts like the Grave Creek stone vanish, excavations stall, and theories are labeled fringe, as if history fears its own complexity. Conspiracy theorists argue a deliberate cover-up, claiming governments or institutions suppress evidence to uphold a Eurocentric discovery myth centered on Columbus. Recent finds DNA studies hinting at transatlantic gene flow, underwater scans revealing structures off Newfoundland keep the questions alive. As we sift through these clues, from Viking nails to cryptic stones, we confront a past that refuses to stay simple. Were the Americas a destination for ancient Europeans? Their journeys erased by time, conquest, or design? Did Solutreans brave the ice? Or Templars hide their secrets in American soil? The evidence is scattered tools, sagas, maps, but it whispers of a world more connected than we imagine, where oceans were not barriers but highways. These stories, whether fact or legend, urge us to look beyond the textbooks, to hear the voices of those who sailed into the unknown, their footsteps perhaps still etched in the sands of a forgotten shore. Drift across the vast Pacific, where the ocean stretches like a canvas of secrets, its currents whispering tales of ancient voyagers who dared to sail beyond the horizon. Long before European ships charted the Americas, mariners from Asia and Polynesia may have crossed these waters, leaving traces in pottery, crops, and legends that challenge the isolation of the New World. Imagine Chinese junks gliding through uncharted seas, Polynesian canoes riding swells to distant shores, and artifacts that hint at connections too profound to be mere coincidence. The story of early contact from Asia and Polynesia is not one of conquest, but of exploration, trade, and cultural echoes that ripple through time. What drove these peoples to brave the ocean's depths? Could their voyages have shaped the Americas in ways we have yet to fully grasp? And why do these possibilities, so tantalizingly close to proof, remain shrouded in doubt? Let us first sail to the shores of ancient China, where the Ming dynasty's Admiral Zheng. He commanded fleets of unparalleled grandeur in the early 1400s. Picture treasure ships, some over 400 feet long, dwarfing Columbus's modest caravels, their decks teeming with sailors, scholars, and trade goods. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 expeditions across the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as East Africa and Arabia. His ships carried silk, porcelain, and knowledge, forging connections across continents. But could they have ventured further, across the Pacific to the Americas? The Cangnedo map, drawn in Korea in 1402, shows land masses resembling the Americas' west coast, with details too precise for mere guesswork. Some scholars argue this map, based on Chinese sources, suggests knowledge of the New World before Columbus. In Ecuador, at Valdivia, archaeologists uncovered pottery from 3,000 years before the Common Era, its Jomon-style designs eerily similar to those of ancient Japan. How did these ceramics, so distinct from local traditions, appear in South America? Were they carried by Japanese fishermen, caught in the Kuroshio Current, or by deliberate explorers? The evidence grows stranger. Chinese texts from the 5th century mention Fusang, a land far east across the ocean, described as a place of mulberry trees and red-skinned people. Some interpret Fusang as Mexico, where agave plants resemble mulberries, and indigenous peoples fit the description. Chinese anchors, heavy stone discs, have been found off California's coast, dated to centuries before European contact. These could be remnants of shipwrecks or intentional markers, but their presence defies the narrative of an isolated Americas. Fringe theories, like those of Gavin Menzies in his book 1421, The Year China Discovered America, propose Zheng. His fleets reached the New World, leaving behind DNA, technology, and even chickens pre-Columbian remains, of which match Asian breeds. Mainstream scholars dismiss Menzies for lack of direct evidence, but genetic studies of Native American populations show traces of Austronesian markers, hinting at ancient Asian contact. Could Chinese navigators, with their advanced compasses and star charts, have crossed the Pacific only for their records to be lost in the Ming dynasty's later isolationism? Now, let us ride the waves with the Polynesians, master navigators who conquered the Pacific's vastness in double-hulled canoes, guided by stars, winds, and ocean swells. By 1,200 years after the Common Era, they had settled islands from Hawaii to Easter Island, their voyages spanning thousands of miles. Their oral traditions speak of wayfinding, a skill so precise it rivals modern navigation. But did they reach the Americas? The sweet potato, a South American crop, appeared in Polynesia by 1,000 years after the Common Era, its name Kumara, echoing Quechua words from Peru. Genetic studies confirm pre-Columbian exchange. Polynesian DNA markers appear in South American populations, particularly among the Mapuche of Chile, dated to around 700 years after the Common Era. Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki expedition in 1947 proved such voyages were possible, his balsa raft sailing from Peru to Polynesia. But could Polynesians have gone the other way, landing in South America? Archaeological clues deepen the mystery. In Chile, chicken bones dated to the 1300s bear DNA matching Polynesian breeds, suggesting trade or settlement. Stone statues on Easter Island, the Moai, share a stoic grandeur with Olmec colossal heads, their monolithic forms prompting speculation of shared cultural roots. Some propose a lost Pacific civilization Mu, a mythical continent akin to Atlantis, whose survivors influenced both Polynesia and the Americas. The Moai's construction, requiring immense labor and engineering, mirrors Andean stonework, like that of the Inca. Could Polynesian navigators have brought tools, ideas, or even people to South America, blending their traditions with local cultures? Linguistic parallels, like Polynesian words for canoes resembling Andean terms, add to the intrigue. Yet, mainstream archaeology hesitates, citing insufficient evidence of permanent settlements. The sweet potato and chicken bones, however, stand as tangible links, defying easy dismissal. The questions multiply when we consider the broader implications. If Chinese or Polynesian voyagers reached the Americas, what did they leave behind? In Peru, textiles from 2,000 years before the Common Era show weaving techniques akin to those in ancient Asia. Rock art in Colombia, depicting boats with high prows, resembles Polynesian designs. These could be coincidences, but their recurrence suggests contact, perhaps fleeting, perhaps profound. Some fringe theorists go further, claiming Asian explorers introduced pyramid building or metallurgy, pointing to similarities between Mayan pyramids and Southeast Asian ziggurats. Others invoke Mu, a sunken land whose refugees shaped both continents, its memory preserved in Polynesian chants and Andean myths. No sunken continent has been found, but underwater structures off Japan's Yonaguni Island, dated to 8,000 years before the Common Era, fuel speculation of a lost Pacific culture. Could these be relics of Mu, or natural formations mistaken for ruins? Why do these ideas struggle for acceptance? The Bering Strait model, dominant in Western scholarship, casts Asia as the sole source of early American populations, marginalizing oceanic voyages. Colonial narratives, emphasizing European discovery, sidelined Asian and Polynesian contributions, framing them as too primitive for such feats. Yet Polynesian wayfinding and Chinese naval technology were unmatched in their time, surpassing European capabilities until the 1500s. Suppression theories abound. Did Ming emperors burn Zheng, his records to erase foreign ventures? Were Polynesian oral histories dismissed as myths by colonial scholars? Modern discoveries, DNA links, crop exchanges challenge this skepticism, but resistance persists. Funding for Pacific archaeology lags, and sites like Yonaguni remain underexplored, as if history fears its own complexity. These traces, pottery, crops, genes and stones paint a picture of an Americas open to the world, a crossroads of cultures long before Columbus. Chinese junks may have anchored off California. Polynesian canoes may have beached in Chile, their crews trading stories under unfamiliar stars. Native legends, like those of the Haida, speak of ocean strangers with strange tools, while Andean tales of Viracocha, a bearded god from the sea, hint at foreign visitors. Were these Asians, Polynesians, or figments of myth? The evidence, though scattered, refuses to stay silent, urging us to rethink the isolation of the New World. As you ponder these ancient voyages, nestled in your evening calm or waking to a new day, where are you joining us from? Drop a note in the comments to share your place and time, and let these stories weave us together across the globe, just as the oceans once did for those who sailed them. Imagine a golden empire, stretching across the sunlit sands of West Africa, its wealth so vast that its ruler could command a fleet of thousands to sail into the unknown, chasing the edge of the world. This is the Mali Empire in the early 1400s, led by a king who traded his throne for the open sea, driven by a vision that might have reshaped history. Abu Bakr II, a name that echoes with enigma, launched not one but two colossal expeditions across the Atlantic, seeking lands beyond the green sea of darkness. His story, intertwined with whispers of African footprints in the Americas long before Columbus, challenges the very foundation of the discovery narrative. Did his ships reach these shores? Could the Olmec's colossal heads, with their striking features, be traces of his legacy? And why has this tale, so rich with possibility, been relegated to the shadows of history, dismissed as legend or suppressed by those who wrote the past? Let us step into the court of Mali, 1311, where Abu Bakr II, ruler of an empire flush with gold, salt and trade, gazed westward with restless curiosity. The Mali Empire, centered in what is now Senegal, Mali, and Gambia, was a beacon of medieval wealth, its markets bustling with goods from across Africa and the Islamic world. Abu Bakr, unlike most kings content with power, was a scholar-explorer, steeped in the Islamic tradition of discovery as a sacred duty. His access to advanced maritime knowledge compasses, star charts, and dhow ship designs rivaled anything in Europe. His first expedition was staggering: 200 ships of men and 200 more, laden with gold, food, and supplies, a floating city sent to probe the Atlantic's mysteries. Months later, a single ship returned, its captain recounting a tale of powerful currents that swept the fleet away, not wrecked, not sunk, but carried into the distance, toward an unknown fate. Most rulers would have stopped there, mourning the loss. Abu Bakr did not. In 1312, he made a decision that defies comprehension. He abdicated his throne, appointed his heir Mansa Musa, and led a second, even larger fleet himself, sailing west into oblivion. What became of Abu Bakr and his armada? No records confirm their fate, no wrecks, no survivors' tales. Yet, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The currents described by the lone survivor match the Canary Current, a powerful flow that could carry ships from West Africa to the Caribbean or South America in weeks. Modern oceanographers note this route, roughly 1,600 miles, is shorter than many Indian Ocean voyages routinely undertaken by Islamic traders. Thor Heyerdahl's Ra expeditions in 1969 and 1970 proved such crossings possible using ancient techniques, his papyrus boats reaching the Americas from Africa. Could Abu Bakr's fleet, with superior doughs and provisions, have landed in the New World? The timeline aligns. His voyages predate Columbus by nearly 2 centuries, and cultural echoes in the Americas suggest contact. Mansa Musa, during his famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, spoke of his predecessor's quest with reverence, hinting that Abu Bakr might have survived, perhaps founding settlements across the sea. The Olmec civilization, flourishing in Mexico from 1600 to 400 years before the Common Era, offers tantalizing clues. Their colossal heads, carved from basalt and weighing up to 50 tons, bear features broad noses, full lips that some scholars, like Ivan van Sertima in his book They Came Before Columbus, argue resemble West African peoples. These heads, found at San Lorenzo and La Venta, are not mere art but monumental portraits, possibly of rulers or deities. Could they depict African visitors, or even settlers, who influenced the Olmec? Van Sertima points to cultural parallels. Olmec pyramids mirror West African mud brick ziggurats, and their ball game, played with rubber, echoes African rituals. Botanical evidence strengthens the case. African crops like cotton and the bottle gourd appear in the Americas before Columbus, their seeds unlikely to cross oceans without human hands. Linguistic traces, too, intrigue. Mandinka words from Mali resemble terms in Mesoamerican languages, such as Kani for village, found in Mayan dialects. Yet, mainstream archaeology pushes back. Critics argue the Olmec heads reflect indigenous features, not African ones, and dismiss linguistic parallels as coincidence. Genetic studies show Native American ancestry as primarily Asian, with no clear African markers from pre-Columbian times. The lack of African artifacts, tools, ships, or settlements further fuels skepticism. But absence is not proof, and the dismissal feels selective. Radiocarbon dating, often cited to debunk early contact, can be skewed by environmental factors, as seen at Teotihuacan, Mexico, where dates of 250,000 years were rejected as impossible. Van Sertima's theories, while controversial, draw on oral histories from Mali, recorded by chroniclers like Al-Umari, who documented Abu Bakr's voyages. These accounts, preserved through Islamic scholarship, were ignored by European historians, who prioritized their own narratives of discovery. The Caribbean adds another layer of mystery. Submerged structures off Cuba, detected by sonar in 2001 at 600 meters deep, reveal geometric shapes, rectangles, pyramids, grids that suggest a sunken city. These anomalies, near the Yucatan, align with the currents that could have carried Abu Bakr's fleet. Were they built by an African-influenced culture or an unknown civilization? The Bimini Road in the Bahamas, a half-kilometer stretch of aligned stones, fuels similar speculation. Some see it as a natural formation, but others, citing its precision, link it to African or even Atlantean builders. These sites, underexplored due to funding shortages or academic disinterest, raise questions. Why do excavations stall? Could confirming African contact disrupt the Columbus-centric narrative, threatening colonial legacies? Fringe theories amplify the intrigue. Some propose Abu Bakr's people not only reached the Americas but shaped the Olmec, teaching them pyramid building or metallurgy. Others tie the Mali voyages to Atlantis, suggesting a lost African-American civilization drowned by rising seas after the Ice Age. The Olmec's sudden decline around 400 years before the Common Era, possibly from environmental shifts or social upheaval, mirrors tales of cataclysmic loss. Conspiracy theorists whisper of suppression. European powers, from the Spanish to modern academia, may have buried evidence to uphold a Eurocentric history. The destruction of Mesoamerican codices by Spanish priests, who burned Mayan and Aztec records, supports this claim knowledge was erased to justify conquest. Modern finds, like African plant DNA in pre-Columbian sites, keep the possibility alive, yet funding for African-American archaeological projects lags, as if the past resists scrutiny. Abu Bakr's story, whether he landed or perished, is a testament to human daring. He risked everything: wealth, power, legacy for the unknown, embodying a spirit of exploration that transcends continents. His expeditions, documented by Mali's griots and Islamic scholars, challenge the isolation of the Americas. Native legends, like those of the Taino, speak of dark-skinned visitors from the sea, their boats unlike local canoes. Could these be memories of Mali's mariners? The evidence, botanical, linguistic, archaeological forms, a mosaic, incomplete but compelling. Why then the resistance? Colonial narratives, prioritizing European discovery, marginalized African achievements. Academic gatekeeping, wary of fringe theories, dismisses anomalies to preserve simplicity. Yet, the past whispers through the Olmec heads, the Cuban sonar images, the currents that still flow westward. Did Abu Bakr's fleet touch American soil, blending cultures in ways we cannot prove? Beneath the restless waves of the Caribbean, where turquoise waters hide secrets older than memory, lies a riddle that has haunted humanity for millennia. Picture a lost city, its stone walls shimmering in the deep, columns draped in algae, and streets silent under the weight of the ocean. This is not a tale spun from fantasy, but a question carved in the annals of philosophy and now echoed by modern sonar scans. Plato, in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, spoke of Atlantis, a mighty civilization of concentric rings, gold-clad temples, and advanced knowledge, swallowed by the sea in a single night. Could this fabled island, or something like it, lie hidden off the coasts of the Americas? From the Bahamas to Cuba, submerged structures hint at forgotten peoples, while ancient American cities mirror Plato's vision with eerie precision. What lies beneath these waters? Ruins of a lost world, natural formations, or something stranger still? The mystery of Atlantis and the sunken cities of the Americas beckons us to dive into a past that refuses to stay submerged. Let us begin with Plato's account, written in the 4th century before the Common Era. He described Atlantis as a vast island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, its people masters of wealth and wisdom, their city a marvel of canals and concentric rings. Destroyed by hubris and divine wrath, it sank beneath the waves 9,000 years before his time. Scholars have long debated its location: Mediterranean, Antarctica, or myth, but some point to the Americas, where the timeline and geography align with unsettling clarity. The Caribbean, with its shallow shelves and submerged anomalies, offers tantalizing clues. In 2001, a Canadian-Cuban team using sonar off Cuba's Guanahacoibes Peninsula detected geometric structures, rectangles, pyramids, and grids at 600 meters deep. These forms, too precise for nature, resemble a cityscape, sparking speculation of a pre-Ice Age civilization drowned by rising seas. The Bimini Road, discovered in 1968 off the Bahamas, adds to the enigma: a half-kilometer stretch of rectangular limestone blocks, aligned like a causeway. Geologists call it natural erosion, but divers note cut edges and uniform placement, suggesting human hands. Could these be remnants of Atlantis, or another lost culture? The Americas themselves hold echoes of Plato's tale. In Bolivia, the site of Tiwanaku, flourishing from 300 to 1,000 years after the Common Era, features concentric layouts and megalithic walls, their stones fitted with seamless precision. Pumapunku, nearby, boasts blocks cut with laser-like accuracy, some weighing over 100 tons, defying the technology of its time. In Ecuador, the Cuenca site mirrors this design, its circular plazas and canals evoking Atlantis's rings. These similarities fuel theories that Andean cultures inherited knowledge from a sunken predecessor. Plato's Atlantis, larger than Libya and Asia combined, fits a continent more than an island, leading some to propose the Americas as its true location. The Piri-Reis map of 1513, showing the Americas coast with uncanny detail, hints at ancient knowledge, possibly from Phoenician or Egyptian sources. Could these cultures have known of a great land across the Atlantic, its memory preserved in myth? The Caribbean's cenotes sinkholes plunging into underwater caves deepen the mystery. In Mexico's Zacatectan system, divers have found stone altars, scorched surfaces, and deity statues, evidence of Mayan rituals in flooded chambers. These caves, dry during the Ice Age, were used for millennia, with skeletons in Hoyo Negro dated to 12,000 years ago. At Chichen Itza, geophysical scans revealed a cenote beneath the El Castillo pyramid, suggesting the Maya built atop sacred water portals. Were these sites chosen to honor a submerged past? Perhaps a memory of Atlantis? Mayan cosmology speaks of Xibalba, an underworld reached through water, where gods tested heroes. The submerged temples and stairways in these cenotes feel like echoes of a drowned world, their shimmering walls a testament to a culture that revered water as divine. Some fringe theorists propose these are literal remnants of Atlantis, built when sea levels were lower, then flooded as glaciers melted. The Nazca lines in Peru, etched into the desert from 100 to 800 years after the Common Era, add another layer. These massive geoglyphs, animals, shapes, lines visible only from the air, resemble Plato's description of Atlantis's vast designs. Erich von Däniken suggested they were signals for extraterrestrial visitors, but could they mark a lost coastal city, now underwater? Sonar scans off Peru's coast reveal submerged anomalies, possibly structures, though exploration lags. The Inca, too, carry Atlantean echoes. Their Coricancha temple, aligned with solstices, and Machu Picchu's precise stonework suggest a sophistication that defies their lack of writing or wheels. Oral traditions speak of Viracocha, a sea-born god who taught civilization, his bearded visage hinting at foreign influence. Could he represent survivors of a sunken culture, their knowledge shaping Andean societies? Conspiracy theories thrive in these gaps. Some claim governments halt underwater excavations to avoid rewriting history, fearing the chaos of admitting a pre-Columbian civilization rivaling Egypt. The Cuban sonar findings, announced with fanfare, stalled without explanation, while Bimini Road studies face funding cuts. Others suggest colonial powers suppressed evidence to justify conquest, erasing traces of advanced American cultures. The Spanish burned Mayan codices, potentially destroying records of ancient contacts or lost cities. Modern technology satellite imagery, AI mapping has revived interest, uncovering new geoglyphs and underwater anomalies, yet mainstream archaeology remains cautious, dismissing Atlantis as myth. But myths often hold kernels of truth. Plato's tale, sourced from Egyptian priests, may preserve a memory of a real cataclysm, a comet, tsunami, or glacial flood that sank coastal cities around 11,000 years ago, aligning with the end of the Ice Age. Native American stories amplify the intrigue. Taino legends speak of a great flood that reshaped their islands, while Andean myths describe a deluge sent by gods to punish hubris, mirroring Plato's account. These tales, dismissed as folklore, may encode historical events, just as the Trojan War emerged from Homer's epics. Submerged structures off Yonaguni, Japan, dated to 8,000 years before the Common Era, suggest a global pattern of sunken sites, perhaps linked by ancient mariners. Could the Americas' coastal ruins, Cuba, Bimini, Peru, be part of this network, a forgotten hub connecting Africa, Asia, and the New World? The lack of artifacts fuels skepticism, but the ocean is a jealous keeper of secrets, its depths hiding wrecks and cities beyond our reach. The Atlantis question transcends geography. It is a symbol of what we have lost. Whether a real place or a metaphor for hubris, Its echoes in American ruins, concentric cities, megalithic stones, submerged temples suggest a deeper truth. Were these civilizations built by survivors of a great flood, their knowledge preserved in stone and story? Why do we resist exploring these depths? The evidence, sonar images, ancient maps, indigenous myths forms a mosaic, incomplete but compelling. As we peer into the Caribbean's blue abyss, we ask, are these sunken cities the edge of Atlantis, or a chapter of history we were never meant to read? Step into a realm where the boundaries of history blur, where the artifacts of ancient Americas whisper tales too strange for textbooks, and where shadows of forgotten truths dance in the flickering light of speculation. The civilizations we have explored, Olmec, Maya, Aztec, Inca, and beyond, left behind not just ruins but enigmas that refuse to fit neatly into the narrative of human progress. From crystal skulls that defy explanation to colossal earthworks tied to biblical legends, from whispers of extraterrestrial architects to claims of suppressed knowledge, the Americas harbor mysteries that challenge our understanding of the past. What if the pyramids were more than temples, their designs encoding cosmic secrets? Could artifacts dismissed as hoaxes hold clues to a history we are not ready to accept? Begin with the crystal skulls, those polished quartz marvels attributed to the Maya or Aztec, said to pulse with otherworldly energy. 13 are known, scattered across museums and private collections, their origins shrouded in mystery. The Mitchell Hedges skull, discovered in Belize in 1924, is the most famous, its flawless craftsmanship suggesting advanced technology. Some claim these skulls are pre-Columbian, used in rituals to channel divine or alien wisdom, their optical properties focusing light in ways that defy ancient tools. Mainstream scholars, like those at the Smithsonian, argue they are 19th century forgeries, carved with modern abrasives in Europe. Yet, tests on the Paris skull in 2008 revealed microabrasions hinting at older techniques, reigniting debate. Fringe theorists, inspired by figures like Max the Crystal Skull's caretaker, propose they are relics of a lost civilization, perhaps Atlantis, or gifts from extraterrestrial visitors, encoding knowledge of energy fields or cosmic events. Why do they captivate us? Their eerie clarity, some say, mirrors the Maya's obsession with time, suggesting a purpose beyond ornament, perhaps as tools for prophecy or interdimensional communication. The lack of clear provenance fuels speculation. Were they hidden by colonial powers to erase evidence of advanced ancient tech? Or are they clever hoaxes exploiting our thirst for mystery? Now, turn to the earthworks of North America, particularly the Ohio Valley's mounds, built by the Hopewell and Mississippian cultures. These structures, like the Serpent Mound, a quarter-mile-long effigy coiling across the landscape, align with solstices and lunar cycles, suggesting astronomical mastery. In the 1900s, Mormon scholars linked these to the lost tribes of Israel, claiming Hebrew exiles reached the Americas, their descendants building these mounds. The Bat Creek Stone, found in Tennessee in 1889, bears inscriptions some interpret as Paleo-Hebrew, supporting this theory. Critics dismiss it as a fraud, citing inconsistent dating, yet the stone's symbols remain unexplained. Could these mounds be temples of a forgotten diaspora, or markers of a pre-Columbian civilization with Old World ties? Conspiracy theorists argue the Smithsonian suppressed such finds, storing artifacts in hidden vaults to uphold a narrative excluding biblical connections. Recent geophysical surveys reveal more mounds, some with geometric precision, hinting at a sophistication that challenges the primitive label. Were these built by locals alone, or with knowledge from across the sea? The extraterrestrial hypothesis looms large, fueled by figures like Erich von Däniken. He argued that American pyramids, from Teotihuacan to Chichen Itza, were energy devices or landing platforms for alien visitors. The Nazca lines, visible only from the air, are his prime evidence runways for UFOs, he claimed, not ritual paths. Mayan carvings, like Pacal's tomb lid in Palenque, depict what some see as an astronaut in a cockpit, surrounded by cosmic symbols. Mainstream archaeologists counter that these are symbolic, not literal, representing gods or journeys to the underworld. Yet, The precision of Inca stonework blocks fitted without mortar and Maya astronomical tables predicting eclipses with uncanny accuracy spark questions. Could aliens have guided these cultures, or did they tap into universal knowledge? Modern UFO sightings near ancient sites, like Chichen Itza's reported lights in 2020, keep the theory alive. Skeptics point to cultural bias attributing indigenous achievements to aliens, but the anomalies persist, daring us to wonder if the past holds extraterrestrial fingerprints. Suppression narratives weave through these mysteries. Many believe academia, governments, or religious institutions hide evidence to maintain a Eurocentric, Columbus-first history. The destruction of Mayan and Aztec codices by Spanish priests in the 1500s is well documented, erasing records that might have detailed ancient contacts or technologies. The Vatican, some claim, holds secret archives of pre-Columbian voyages, suppressed to protect Christian timelines. In North America, artifacts like the Los Lunas Decalogue stone, inscribed with Hebrew commandments, are dismissed as hoaxes, yet their age and context remain debated. Why do such finds vanish or face skepticism? Conspiracy theorists suggest a deep state agenda, fearing that acknowledging advanced ancient cultures would upend colonial justifications or religious doctrines. Recent discoveries, like DNA linking Native Americans to distant populations or sonar revealing submerged structures, are often underfunded, as if exploration is deliberately stalled. The silence around these findings feels louder than the evidence itself, hinting at a history too complex for comfort. Other phenomena defy categorization. The Kensington runestone, found in Minnesota in 1898, bears Norse runes claiming a 1460 expedition, centuries after the Vikings. Scholars debate its authenticity, but its inscriptions match medieval Scandinavian styles. Could it prove later European contact, or is it a farmer's prank? In Peru, the Ica stones, depicting dinosaurs and advanced technology, emerged in the 1960s, dismissed as forgeries but eerily consistent with local legends of ancient knowledge. These artifacts, whether real or staged, tap into a deeper question. Are we missing a chapter of human history, one where the Americas were a crossroads of ideas, peoples, or even beings? Native oral traditions, from Hopi tales of star ancestors to Taino stories of sea-born gods, echo these anomalies, suggesting a past where the impossible was real. These conspiracies and phenomena, skulls, mounds, alien theories, suppressed truths, form a mosaic of doubt and wonder. They challenge the linear narrative of human progress, suggesting the Americas were not isolated, but a hub of ancient exchange. Why do we resist these ideas? Fear of rewriting history, perhaps? Or discomfort with a past that defies our tools and timelines? The evidence, though fragmented runes, carvings, oral tales, refuses to fade, each piece a whisper from a world we have yet to understand. As we sift through these mysteries, we ask, were the Americas shaped by forces beyond our reckoning, their secrets buried by time or design? The past is a fragile thing, not carved in stone but written in whispers, easily silenced by those who hold the pen. Across the Americas, from the jungles of Yucatan to the deserts of Peru, from the Mississippi's mounds to the Caribbean's sunken stones, we have uncovered traces of civilizations and contacts that challenge the history we were taught. Footprints older than the Bering Migration, tools too advanced for their time, maps hinting at lost worlds, and legends of visitors from distant shores all point to a story far richer than the one in our textbooks. Yet, these clues are often dismissed, ignored, or buried. Why? What forces conspire to keep the Americas' ancient truths in the shadows? And what are the consequences of this silence, not just for history but for our understanding of who we are? Let us unravel this enigma, not as a tale of blame, but as a journey into the motives and costs of a hidden past, where every suppressed artifact and silent story begs us to ask, what are we afraid to know? Consider the weight of the official narrative, the one that crowns Christopher Columbus as the discoverer of a new world in 1492. This story, woven into the fabric of Western education, paints the Americas as a blank canvas, populated by scattered tribes until European sails arrived. But the evidence we have explored, Monteverde's 18,000-year-old settlement, White Sand's 23,000-year-old footprints, Olmec heads with African features, and submerged structures off Cuba, suggests a far older, more connected world. Why then are these findings sidelined? One answer lies in the inertia of academic tradition. The Bering Strait migration theory, established in the early 20th century, became a cornerstone of anthropology, supported by genetic links to Asia and Clovis tools. Anomalies like Pedra Furada's 50,000-year-old artifacts or Solutrean blades threaten this framework, demanding a rewrite that could unravel decades of scholarship. Academics, bound by peer review and funding, often resist, labeling such finds as errors or hoaxes. At Hueyatlaco, Mexico, where charred wood dated to 250,000 years, the excavation was halted, not for lack of evidence, but because the age was deemed impossible. This is not science following truth, but dogma guarding its gates. Beyond academia, colonial legacies cast a long shadow. When the Spanish conquered the Americas, they burned Mayan and Aztec codices, erasing centuries of knowledge to impose a Christian, Eurocentric order. This destruction was not mere zealotry, but a calculated act to justify conquest, framing indigenous peoples as savages devoid of history. The Vatican, some theorists claim, holds secret archives of pre-Columbian contacts, Phoenician, African, or Chinese, suppressed to maintain biblical timelines, or European supremacy. The Piri-Reis map, showing the Americas in 1513, hints at such knowledge, possibly drawn from older sources, yet its implications are downplayed. The Taino's oral histories of sea-borne visitors were dismissed as myths, their Zemi statues reduced to curiosities. This erasure served a purpose. A new world was easier to claim if its past was empty. By silencing evidence of advanced civilizations or early contacts, colonial powers crafted a narrative that legitimized exploitation, a narrative that lingers in modern education. Political motives also play a role. Acknowledging African explorers like Abu Bakr II or Polynesian voyages could elevate non-European contributions, challenging the Eurocentric myth of discovery. In the United States, the idea of Solutrean contact or lost tribes building Ohio's mounds stirs unease, as it risks complicating Native American ancestry or fueling nationalist agendas. The Bat Creek Stone, with its possible Hebrew inscriptions, was dismissed as a forgery, yet its symbols remain unexplained. Governments, wary of cultural upheaval, may quietly discourage excavations that threaten established histories. The Cuban sonar anomalies, detected in 2001, sparked excitement but stalled without funding, as if the prospect of a pre-Columbian city was too disruptive. Conspiracy theorists go further, alleging a deep state agenda. Museums like the Smithsonian are said to hide artifacts, from Lovelock Cave's giant bones to crystal skulls, to prevent a paradigm shift that could question modern power structures or religious doctrines. The consequences of this suppression are profound, stretching beyond history books to the heart of identity and truth. For indigenous peoples, the erasure of their ancient achievements, Carroll's 5,000-year-old city, Cahokia's monumental mounds, robs them of a legacy that rivals Egypt or Rome. The Mayas' astronomical precision, the Incas' seismic-resistant stonework, and the Taino's complex societies are reduced to footnotes, diminishing their cultural weight. This loss fuels distrust, as voiced by our audience member who questioned the accidental discovery of Columbus. When history is curated to exclude African, Asian, or European pre-Columbian contacts, it alienates communities whose ancestors may have crossed oceans, from Mali's mariners to Polynesian wayfinders. The Olmec heads, with their debated African features, become battlegrounds, not bridges, as Afrocentric scholars like Ivan van Sertima are marginalized, their theories dismissed as speculative despite botanical and linguistic clues. This silencing also stifles curiosity. The Nazca lines, aligned with stars, or, as some claim, alien visitors, are studied sparingly, their aerial perspective unexplained. The Kensington runestone, with its Norse runes, languishes in debate, its potential to prove medieval contact unexplored. When artifacts like the Los Lunas Decalogue stone vanish or excavations like Bimini Road falter, we lose chances to test bold ideas Atlantis, Mu, or extraterrestrial influence. The cost is a narrower worldview, where history is a straight line, not a web of possibilities. Modern discoveries DNA linking Polynesians to South Americans, sonar revealing Caribbean structures struggle for attention, as funding prioritizes safe research over radical questions. The public, hungry for truth, turns to fringe theories, from ancient astronauts to hidden vaults, because mainstream channels offer only silence. Yet the past persists, its whispers growing louder. Recent advances satellite imagery, uncovering new geoglyphs, AI decoding quipu knots revive hope. UFO sightings near Chichen Itza or Machu Picchu, reported as recently as 2025, fuel speculation of ancient extraterrestrial ties, echoing von Däniken's claims. Indigenous oral traditions, like the Hopi's star ancestors or Andean flood myths, align with archaeological finds, suggesting history encoded in story. The consequence of suppression is not just lost knowledge, but a fractured connection to our shared humanity. By denying the Americas' complexity, its early migrations, global contacts, or cosmic ambitions, we limit our understanding of what humans can achieve. Are we hiding from a past that could redefine us? One where the Americas were a crossroads of cultures, ideas, or even otherworldly visitors. As we probe these shadows, we see not just a cover-up, but a challenge. The artifacts, from crystal skulls to submerged cities, demand we listen without prejudice. The consequences of ignoring them are clear: a history that excludes, divides, and diminishes. The truth, though buried, is not gone. It waits in the earth, the sea, and the stories of those who came before. What do we fear by unearthing it? A past where humans sailed, built, and dreamed beyond our imagination, or a future where we must confront our own reluctance to embrace the unknown? As the night deepens and the stars emerge above, let us pause at the edge of this journey through the ancient Americas, where the past has unfolded like a river, winding through shadows and secrets. We have walked among the footprints of white sands, older than any textbook allows, gazed upon the Olmec's enigmatic stone heads, and traced the Inca's roads that defy the mountains. We have sailed with Vikings, Polynesians, and an African king, Abu Bakr II, whose vanished fleets whisper of forgotten shores. From the submerged stones of Bimini to the cosmic carvings of the Maya, from the Nazca's skyward lines to the crystal skulls that pulse with mystery, the Americas reveal a history not of isolation but of connection, a tapestry woven with threads of human daring, lost knowledge, and perhaps even otherworldly echoes. Now, as we stand at this crossroads of time, what do these whispers ask of us? How do they reshape the way we see ourselves, not just as inheritors of history, but as seekers of truth still waiting to be found? This journey has not been about rewriting history with certainty, but about listening to its murmurs, the soft voices of artifacts and legends that refuse to stay silent. The Americas, we were told, were a blank slate until Columbus's sails broke the horizon, yet every discovery challenges that tale. The 32,000-year-old tools of Pedra Furada, the celestial alignments of Cahokia's mounds, the sonar shadows of Cuban seas, all suggest a world where people crossed oceans, built wonders, and dreamed beyond the stars long before 1500. These are not mere anomalies, but invitations to wonder. What if the past was a global stage, where Africans, Asians, Europeans, and Polynesians met in the Americas, their stories erased by time, conquest, or design? What if the Atlantis myth, with its sunken rings, is not a fable but a memory of cities like Caral or Tiwanaku, drowned by floods or buried by jungles? The questions linger, not as answers to claim, but as sparks to ignite curiosity, urging us to look beyond the pages we were given. The cost of ignoring these sparks is heavy. By clinging to a simplified history, we lose the richness of our shared humanity, the ingenuity of the Inca's quipu, the courage of Polynesian wayfinders, the vision of a Mali king who sailed into the unknown. We risk alienating those whose ancestors built these wonders. From the Taino's zemi-carved villages to the Mississippians' star-aligned mounds, their legacies diminished to fit a colonial narrative. Yet, the past is not silent. It speaks through every unearthed tool, every submerged stone, every native story of sea-born gods. Modern tools, DNA mapping, satellite scans, AI decoding bring these voices closer, revealing Polynesian genes in Chile, African crops in ancient Mexico, and structures beneath Caribbean waves. These discoveries are not threats but gifts, offering a chance to see the Americas as a crossroads of cultures where human ambition knew no bounds. So, as you drift towards sleep, let these mysteries linger like a gentle tide. Which tale resonates most with you? Do you hear the call of Abu Bakr's lost fleet, or see the Nazca lines as signals to the sky? Perhaps the Serpent Mound's curves or Machu Picchu's stones hold your imagination, whispering of a past where humans touched the divine or something stranger. I invite you to share your thoughts below, to join this community of dreamers who seek the truths hidden in history's folds. What story do you believe, and what questions keep you awake? The past is not a closed book but a living current, flowing through us, asking to be heard. This is Mr. H. May these echoes of forgotten worlds guide you into dreams where the past is not lost, but waiting to be rediscovered. Let the stars above and the ruins below lull you into a restful night, where the mysteries of the Americas unfold in your mind, their secrets as boundless as the ocean. Sleep well, and may you wake with a spark of wonder, ready to chase the truths that time has only begun to reveal.